Good morning, metalheads of the internet, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Metal Meltdown. Today, we are gathered here to pay our final respects to Synner, aka Psychosexual, aka the brainchild of one Jeremy Spencer, aka Devil Daddy, aka the worst heavy metal band of all time. From 2005 to 2018, Jeremy Spencer was the drummer for American heavy metal groove metal band Five Finger Death Punch. After leaving the band, Jeremy Spencer began working on a project at the time known as Devil Daddy. He would dress up as the Devil Daddy character, and he performed this very, primitive, crude, raunchy, not safe for work pop music. Devil Daddy kind of flew under the radar for a couple of years until Devil Daddy was reintroduced to us in the Metalverse as the lead singer for Jeremy's newest project at the time called Psychosexual. In fact, it was nearly 3 years ago today that Psychosexual released their only album, Torch the Faith. An album so bad that at the time, it quite literally broke my brain. It was a record littered with a suspicious amount of sexual abuse-related fantasies and some of the most generic, cringy songwriting you could possibly hear on a modern rock or metal album. And following all of this intense backlash and controversy, Jeremy Spencer removed Torch the Faith from social media and then rebranded Psychosexual as Synner, pleading with all of us to give the band a second chance, to remain open-minded, conceding that perhaps Torch the Faith wasn't up to par, but that he would soon be dropping music that was. What ended up happening is the following year, Synner would release 9 full-length studio albums in a single day, which, if I remember correctly, was November 7th or 8th, 2021-ish. Yeah, somewhere around that time frame. Not only were all 9 of these albums horrendously, irredeemably terrible, but they were horrendously, irredeemably terrible for the exact same reasons that Torch the Faith was. It definitely felt as though Jeremy Spencer, despite what he had claimed, had not actually paid attention to much of the criticism levied towards Torch the Faith, and instead was doubling down. Even more remarkably, despite acknowledging that Torch the Faith wasn't up to par, all of the songs from Torch the Faith were repurposed across all 9 of these albums. There were some minor differences in some of the lyrics and in some little bits and pieces here and there, but for the most part, they were all functionally the same songs. The only one I can remember being actually noticeably different was Let the Sin Begin, which was retitled for one of those 9 albums, The Rebel Within, which was amazing to me because, Jeremy, the issue with that song wasn't the title. The issue with that song specifically was you straight up ripped off I'm Afraid of Americans from David Bowie and turned it into a really stupid, disgusting, cringe fuckfest. Clearly further undeterred, Synner would go on to drop 2 more albums in September of 2022, both of which, unsurprisingly, did everything that I guess I expected a Synner album at that point to do. There was also a stunning, shall we say, mashup or remix or whatever you prefer of Bad Moon Rising from Creedence Clearwater Revival and Killing in the Name of from Rage Against the Machine. I remember, too, Jeremy spent more time on that album kind of whining about cancel culture and shit like that, which, great, yippee. I'm telling you all of this because no one else will. Because everything Synner, Psychosexual, Devil Daddy related has been scrubbed from the internet entirely. None of the music affiliated with any of these projects is available on any kind of streaming service or available to purchase on CD, vinyl, cassette tape, whatever. We may never see a world without nuclear weapons or fascism, but we will most certainly see a world in the very near future without any trace of Psychosexual or Synner aside from the videos I've made about the band. And this isn't me simply imagining things or trying to put words in Jeremy's mouth. This is real. There is no Synner or Psychosexual on Spotify or iTunes or anything like that. Obviously, Torch the Faith had already been gone for some time, but there were a few people notifying me earlier in the spring this year that Synner's music had also been removed from streaming services. I didn't think much of it at the time. I honestly thought that Jeremy was once again going to rebrand the band as, I don't know, Psycho Slayer or Psycho Force or whatever the fuck. And, you know, then by this time this year, he'd have like 5 albums ready or some shit like that. But a very recent interview with Blabbermouth, which you might have seen a bit of in the very beginning of this video, tells me that Jeremy really truly is done with this band. Writing, it was quite an experience. I wanted to do something really different from Death Punch. I wanted to do something visually stimulating and fun. It was supposed to be lighthearted and fun, but before we figured out our core sound, we released some cheesy and boneheaded songs early. I don't think we recovered. People said this sucks. We went on to release 11 albums and 9 in one day. We worked our asses off. People fucking hated it. I was an easy target. It was a band that did some cool things on the radio, but could never break through into the public. They didn't care. Now Semi-Rotted is the only thing I'm focusing on. Normally, I would never make a video about a band falling apart, about a project or something like that disbanding. It just seems kind of silly. But I've never really been put in a situation where I am very much a part of why a band fell apart. Which I don't really think is that unfair or that ridiculous of a statement for me to make, because I'm one of the only prominent, like, metal YouTubers that's been talking about Synner or Psychosexual in any capacity. Like, every time this project did something, I dropped a video. And all the videos that I dropped were immensely successful. Like, literally, out of the top 10 most popular videos on this channel, 6 or 7 mention Psychosexual, Synner, or Devil Daddy in some capacity. I, with the help of the tens of thousands of people that tuned in to the Metal Meltdown to talk shit about Synner, absolutely play a part in this band no longer existing. We essentially cyberbullied this band to death. We cyberbullied them beyond death. There's no trace of them ever existing, again, beyond the videos that I have made. And I am left profoundly weirded out, I guess, by that. I don't know how to even phrase this. I think there are some lessons that we can learn from this. All of us. Jeremy, myself, and everyone here. For one, the importance of staying true to your artistic integrity and expression and vision, whilst also acknowledging how subjective art is, and whilst keeping in mind what people are saying. Obviously, you are not expected to cave in every time somebody goes, this is cringe, or this is mid, or this is whatever the fuck. But if tens of thousands of people are tuning in on a regular basis and telling you you're doing something wrong, you might be doing something wrong. The way I see it myself as a chef, if one person tells me, you know, that duck breast special that we did yesterday, one guy said it sucked. Well, you know what? Fuck that one guy. But if we've got 50 paying customers and they're all going, yikes, this wasn't it, then that's it, you know? The tribe has spoken. The jury's out. Also, embrace the power of the meme. Jeremy had an opportunity here to become metal's own equivalent to someone like Tommy Wiseau or Neil Breen or Corey Feldman, somebody who is just incredibly, hilariously bad at their job, but we just love seeing them do it. Like, all those people I just mentioned care so deeply about their art, and I'm sure that, like, negative comments and all that stuff, I'm sure it gets to them, reviews and shit online and all stuff like that, but, like, they're also still out there doing it. And they've embraced the memes, especially Tommy Wiseau, holy shit. And they've been able to kind of build a reputation and a career and a living off of that. Not by saying, yeah, this is shit, let's keep going, but by continuing to make art and rolling with the punches and acknowledging when something is up to par. To Jeremy's credit, he did acknowledge that, But then he also, as we noted before, simultaneously doubled down. And I mean, come to think of it, saying doubling down, that's quite an understatement. That's me underselling and minimizing this whole thing, because Psychosexual, turning into Synner, went on to release 11 albums in the time span of like 10 months. Granted, there are examples of some musicians who are more than capable of releasing a bunch of different albums in a short period of time, and all of them are good, and a lot of them are sometimes even exploring different concepts and genres of music. King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard is a great example. So is Buckethead. So is Devin Townsend. Even people like Dave Lombardo and Phil Touga, who have tons and tons and tons of different projects kind of operating all at the same time, are great examples of this. Jeremy Spencer, however, at least at that moment in time when Psychosexual was his main focus, just didn't necessarily have that ability. Maybe, who knows, in a few years that will change. But in 2021, 2022, that just simply wasn't the case. This should be used as a warning to musicians to reel back, to be patient. You don't have to drop something just because you need to drop something. Let things take time. Let hype and anticipation build. Make sure what you're putting out is the best thing you can possibly make. Not necessarily for the consumer, but for you. It doesn't have to go out there immediately just because you have it. As much as I do not like Ronnie Radke, this is something he talked about in a pretty recent interview, and he hit the nail on the head. Falling in Reverse is succeeding right now because they're putting all of their efforts into these little singles that they can turn into big event moments for the band, as opposed to just kind of crapping out material. Also, a lesson for all rock, punk, metal, pop, alternative bands out there: the importance of living in objective reality. Like, in that Blabbermouth interview, Jeremy talks about how they did some cool things on the radio, and they just wanted to be lighthearted and fun, but Psychosexual also never charted anywhere ever, and also consistently sang about a variety of, like, violent sexual abuse and torture fantasies, and, you know, that just doesn't really scream radio success and lighthearted and fun, to me at least. On that same note, there's also a lesson for us as consumers. Maybe we also need to be more patient, and maybe we also need to be more civil and understanding. I know that that's sometimes very difficult here when the channel is called The Metal Meltdown, and I make silly, goofy faces, and we talk about terrible fucking music, and we do drinking games and all that stuff, and we can get kind of spicy, and we can be kind of mean and sassy, I get it. And also the internet in general just kind of sucks sometimes, I get it. But perhaps if we had thought of a way to communicate with Jeremy Spencer in a more constructive and healthy manner, I don't know. I don't know if Synner and Psychosexual would still be here, and I'm not really even complaining that they aren't. But maybe it would have inspired him to kind of look at things a different way. Maybe it would have given him that opportunity to grow and to look at things the way that, you know, the aforementioned Tommy Wiseau looks at The Room. So rest in peace, Synner. Without question, the worst metal band of all time. But, warts and all, you were kind of fun to hang out with. Like, every time you dropped an album, every time you turned your head, you always had something weird and crazy and fucked up to say, and it was always really funny to laugh with you. Cheers, I guess. Goodbye. And to Jeremy Spencer, if you are watching this, which is a real possibility, come to think of it, I genuinely hope that whatever you move on to is much more successful, much more cohesive, and much better. Cheers. Anna, do you have any final words for Synner?
Get fucked. Skill issue.
Wow. I actually tried to be mature and tried to be an adult about this.
No, skill issue.
Wow. I tried. Look, there's more videos here. And as always, even you, Jeremy Spencer, have a fantastic fucking day.